You're listening to She's the Business podcast. Are you somebody who procrastinates from making decisions or from taking action that you know that you need to do? You know that you don't want to be standing still in your business or stuck here, but yet you're just trying to figure out what that decision should be or what is the right choice to be making. Well, if that sounds like you, then you're going to want to stick around for today's episode because I'm interviewing Dr. Christine Lee, who's a clinical psychologist and an expert in procrastination, all about how to recognize it and what you can actually do to get through it, to put that procrastination to bed and take the action that you need to be taking. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Osborne, and in my 23 years of business and marketing, I've built many brands to become multi-billion-dollar companies. And just in the last 10 years, I've built 2 online businesses of my own from my dining room table with 2 little babies running around at my feet. I've made it my mission to inspire you to get out of your own way and become the successful business owner who's living the lifestyle you really desire without all the hustle. This is She's the Business podcast, made by women for women. This is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration. Procrastination has got to be the biggest killer of progress that I've ever come across, right? So you're going to be loving today's interview. My special guest is Dr. Christine Lee, and she is a licensed clinical psychologist from New York with many, many years of experience, both in her practice and now as a procrastination coach. So she actually coaches people online who are dealing with and struggling with procrastination in their lives. Her special areas of interest are, where they've got work blocks, they're dealing with anxiety around decision making, and, ADD, ADHD, that can all lead to procrastination. There's so many different layers of procrastination, and we explore many of them in this interview, including that need to be making the right decision. That might be a bit of perfectionism coming through, or potentially even needing that feeling of permission to take action, and everything that goes into us thinking and starting to overthink our decisions and what we can do about it. Now, Dr. Lee is also a podcaster. She hosts the Make Time for Success podcast, where you can connect with her. And if you'd like to learn more about her, then please visit the show notes where you can see her page to her website, where you can access her podcast, her website, her Facebook group, and all things procrastination. So without further ado, let me play the interview for you. Okay, welcome. So I'm here with Dr. Christine Lee. And Christine, I've been so looking forward to having this conversation with you because we're going to talk today all about procrastination, how we're holding ourselves back or getting in our own way in our business. And I'm pretty sure that if you're listening to this, you're a woman, you're an entrepreneur, then no doubt at some point you have gotten your own way and procrastinated on something in your business. I definitely relate to that a lot. And this is Dr. Lee's area of expertise. So could you tell us at first a little bit about what your business is and what you do and who you help? Because I'm sure you'll say a lot better in your own words than I ever would.
Thank you so much, Jessica, and thanks for inviting me on your show. I am so happy to be here, and I'm very happy to share all that I know about procrastination and recovering from procrastination. I think that is the thing that really gets people curious, because it doesn't seem like something that should be all that difficult to maneuver through. But of course, all of us also know the pains and the struggles of procrastination that occurs during really important ventures and times of our lives and circumstances. So again, my name is Dr. Christine Lee. I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm based in New York in the United States. I've been a psychologist for 20 years, and I've been online calling myself procrastination coach for about 10 years and finding my way through this complicated and fun journey of being an entrepreneur, an online entrepreneur. So like Jessica said, I definitely understand the procrastination moments that happen
Mm,
just because we've decided to take this leap and become entrepreneurs and represent something online. There's a lot of emotional and intellectual hurdles that we have to overcome in
mm,
order to be present for our future customers and our current customers. And I think it's a very important topic of
yes.
knowing why you're procrastinating, what's your particular pattern of procrastination, and how do we get you to smoothly and quickly transition out of that place so
Mm,
that you can really do the business that you've always dreamed you could do. And very flexible, actually, in terms of the crowd that I work with. So I would say in some ways I've resisted niching for many years,
yeah.
but the people who tend to come to me are women who are, I would say, 45 and older.
Hmm.
So women who have been through a significant major phase of their life and are transitioning into something new, but
Hmm.
also feel somewhat stuck, somewhat stymied, somewhat overwhelmed, sometimes
Hmm.
lacking the energy or the spirit to move forward. And I have
Mm.
found that when we do these things together, when we just explore what's going on together, we all have much more fun and we all get the aha moments a lot more quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is such an important discussion for us as entrepreneurs because as soon as we start procrastinating, then that means that we're stopping from taking action. And when we stop taking action, then our business is slowly grinding to a halt while we're sitting in this place of procrastination. And, I can very much relate to that feeling, if you are embarking on a new chapter in your life or you're deciding to do something new and different and that whole unknown, even if you know what it is that you want to do, like what is that first step? Well, that simple question can be such a huge barrier, can't it? Because it can literally just stop you in your tracks thinking, well, I kind of know what I want, but I just don't even know where to start or how to start, and all of the overthinking that probably comes with it. So
I am thinking right now about something that I was doing yesterday. And this is just a personal story
mm,
that happens to coincide with the recording of this episode. I decided to apply for a podcast accelerator program, and this opportunity
mm,
kind of just came across my Facebook feed. And I thought to myself, well, it seems to be a reasonable fit for me. And I love podcasting. So why don't I just go and do this? But then the other thoughts came in, and those were the thoughts of, but what if I do get this? And what if I do have to commit to this? And so I
mm,
don't think I was actually overthinking it. I think
mm,
I was forced to have to envision a new reality that I could
mhm,
walk into. And I have to tell you, that took some energy. Even though it's presumably a good opportunity and one that might bring me new opportunities, new revenue, new clients, new audience, it
mm,
was a whole bunch of energy to sort through to get me to even start the application. And I finally submitted it and everything is fine. But you're making me think that sometimes it's not a waste of thinking, because this is where we're going to end up being a few
mhm,
months or a few years from now. Our decisions today oftentimes
mm.
really influence where we end up later.
Yes.
So there's a really understandable element for why we
Mm.
can feel like this is difficult, this is sticky, this
Yeah.
is troubling me. I feel nervous. So I just wanted to put that out there, that the
Yeah, that's
empathy needs to be
and one
there.
of the questions that I'd written down for you today was actually, and this is a great segue into it, is how do we know what the difference is between thinking or maybe, decision making and procrastinating? When does the decision making or the thinking around it become overthinking and then become procrastination? Like, how do we self identify when we're stopping being one and actually making a considered decision? Like you said, you probably needed to work through that, because if we just went and made a decision based on the first feeling that we had every time an opportunity is in front of us, then the consequence of that could be saying yes to all of these things that aren't necessarily aligned with where we want to get to and where we want to be. And that's always something I'm very passionate about. I'm like, if it's not helping you get to where you want to get to, then you shouldn't be doing it. Like, there's plenty of stuff we can get busy with. It doesn't mean we should be doing it all. And I'm very much like that with my marketing. Like, you know, if you tried to do everything you could possibly do to market your business, you would never have time to do anything. Like, you wouldn't even have time to serve your clients. So you shouldn't be doing everything. You shouldn't be saying yes to every opportunity. Like, just going back to that question, what is the difference, do you think, between decision making and procrastination?
Thank you for that beautiful, very tough question, I think. And I have several responses. One is that sometimes it feels like there's a sweet invisible line between thinking just the right amount about something and procrastination.
Mm-hmm.
But then my thoughts went to, oftentimes I think the thinking and the procrastination zones overlap some, that it can be very unclear whether our thoughts about something are actually going to be helpful, because we're talking in entrepreneurship in particular about things that are really unknown. We're creating new things, new products, new messaging, new offers, and it really isn't a yes or no clear answer that we're trying to dig up and find and discover. We're just trying to kind of muddle our way through. But I think that's the game. I think that's the good news, that we're doing the right thing. We're investing our energy purposefully trying to find a good decision. I think sometimes the reason why we launch into real procrastination is when we think, I need to find the right answer. And it's so dire and it's so critical and it means the future of my business. And then that's when you grind to a halt for sure. Because as you and I both know, failure and disappointment and not so great decisions are part of this journey. They're part of the experimentation, finding what you're really good at, finding what your audience really connects with. You have to make some messy Instagram posts to get the really good ones, right? It's just part of the process. And so because I believe that is true, I, for myself at least, and definitely the people who will listen to me, is just go as fast as you can. So that becomes kind of the guard against overthinking, because if you've got a tight schedule, if you've got your schedule dialed in, if you've got your goals kind of refreshing and enlarging on a regular basis, you really don't want to spend your time in the zone of thinking all the time. And I do believe that thinking isn't our only creative act, right? Resting, walking, meeting people at conferences like Jessica and I did just so recently, that this is all inspiration. And if you begin to think of your life as this one big pot of inspiration for your business, inspiration for your brain to get to the answer more quickly, you'll begin to train yourself away from procrastination. It's really taking a hard line saying, I care about myself and my business and my clients and my life so much that I'm going to consider procrastination mostly a dangerous thing, something that I don't want to have to struggle with day in and day out. It really is something that you can move out of your life and enjoy your life more as a result.
So in a moment, I want to touch on what maybe some of the patterns are that we can start to recognize. But first, I think something that came up for me as you were saying that was, correct me if I'm wrong, I was relating to it. And I've also got a personal story around when I've done this. But it was that need to be making the right decision. So it's like we're kind of trying to predict the future. We're trying to see into the future and go, right, okay, I need to make this decision because this is what will happen. And kind of almost feeling like we need to be sure of what the future is going to bring so that we're making this decision, it's the right one, you know, fear around mistakes. And what I experienced, so, the thing that popped into my head, I took about 9 months to decide on a platform, piece of technology to host my online course, membership, whatever, I have a few online programs. And I spent ages researching all the different options and looking at them, like the pros and cons and this and that. And, none of them are perfect. There's always a reason why something isn't right. It might be really expensive, or it might not have some features, or it might be new. How do I know if I trust it? Like all of these things, right? And I trialed them out and I agonized over this decision for so long. It was crazy. And my heart was telling me one thing, but my head had totally taken over. So it was like the logical brain was in overdrive and it was really nutting through all of these details. And I eventually went with one. Wasn't the cheapest, it was fairly expensive, but it wasn't the one that my heart said to me to do. I went against my instincts and my intuition, and I chose one that I thought was the best choice, right? The right choice. I didn't even last a year, so not even a year in, and I've gone, I have not made the right choice. And I'm now making the choice that I knew I should have made when I was making it, and I ignored that feeling. And I then had to make the choice to change, which again was a big decision. I've made that way faster, but I've regretted so many times that whole decision-making process that I went through because I took forever. 9 months I stalled. Like, what was I doing for 9 months? And then I made a choice from overthinking. It actually clouded my intuition and judgment into a place where I actually made a choice that was wrong. And okay, it's fine. I made a mistake. I don't beat myself up about it. But I just think, what if I had made that faster? What if I hadn't sat in that zone of overthinking it for so long and it actually just gone ahead? I would have made the mistake faster if I'd still made that choice. I would have been like, 9 months further along than I am now because I wouldn't have sat there for so long in that place, not moving. So that's sort of what came up for me. And so is that, do you think, a big driver when you work with people who procrastinate? Is it this need to predict the future? Like, you're trying to make it happen the way that you want it to be and control the future and sort of not allow it to be, because we all know we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, do we? So
yes. And of course it happens not just for entrepreneurs. This I see very deeply in working with clinical patients.
Mm-hmm.
And really the issue oftentimes is wanting that sense of control. And we all know that that's really an illusion, because what we are not in control of is so much bigger a
Mm-hmm.
part of our lives than what we actually have actual solid control over. I think we actually have very, very little control when you think about it, about all the things, even decisions about software to sign up with. There's so many options, and we can have 10 different ideas about a single piece of software. And I like the story that you shared, because as soon as you said it was between my heart and my head, I kind of had a thought, I think she's going to end up saying her heart really knew the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't that interesting that we kind of have to learn as we get older, I think, how to trust our heart's brain. And it feels so wacky in a way, right? That we have
Mm-hmm.
some sort of intuitive knowledge, but it isn't really that crazy, because our intuition is based on all of our past experiences, good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
So it is really a valuable source of direction and ideas and grounds for making good choices for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it is always watching out for you. This is what I understand about our intuition, our subconscious, and that we overvalue what our brain is shooting at us. And oftentimes our brains are traveling other people's marketing, right? That the
Yeah,
marketers of this software just really got your brain. They really understood
totally.
what your literal struggle was, but they didn't understand what you needed as a human being or as a woman or as the
Mm-hmm.
marketer that you are.
Mm-hmm.
And only you could know that.
Yeah.
And so that's why so often the heart is the organ that knows the best, or it's not just the organ, it's that spirit inside of us that really knows the best. It's no wonder why we then get caught in procrastination, because there are no clear answers oftentimes. And
Mm.
we have this wish to be sure that we don't get blamed for things, to be sure that we don't end up regretting an expense, a large
Mm-hmm.
expense. For sure. And I say it's kind of like riding waves. You just have to, not that I ride waves, is that you have to really know that there's another chance coming, and there's another chance for you to get up and surf or swim or enjoy,
Yeah.
and making every decision a do or die decision
Mm-hmm.
makes the entire process of decision making a laborious one. And I think one of my most core beliefs about recovering from resistance and avoidance, fear, and procrastination is that you have to make things more pleasurable for yourself. You have to reduce the drama and the stress and the, oh my God moments, and realize that this is like a game. It's all a game, and it's
Yeah.
all really kind of fun and fascinating. Making bad decisions is fascinating, right?
Yeah.
We have to look at it. We have to be like, oh my God, what if I hadn't done that? And when we're spot on the money, we move on and nothing's really learned. That's so valuable. We learn about ourselves and the universe the most when we screw up. It's the
Yeah.
truth. We all hate that, but it's the truth.
And it's so interesting because I think when I realized that I'd made the wrong decision and I knew that I didn't already know the right decision, it was like a lesson I'd already learned years ago. And if I had been my own client, or if someone else had that decision and they'd asked me, I was like, well, I knew straight away what I would have told them or how to think about the choice. It was like, well, even though something might seem like a big investment up front, because it was the most expensive, which is probably why my brain was trying to protect me from making this decision, because it was fearful of the outlay. It might seem more expensive up front, but in the long run, it often isn't, because it was also the most simple, and it was the most simplified and the least complicated. So the amount of time I save from all of these other things and needing to run all this other stuff and connect it all and figure it all out, it's worth the money. It actually ends up being not the most expensive, even though the price tag on it seems more expensive up front. And I was like, I already knew that lesson. Why did I ignore it? And why didn't I ask myself what I would tell someone else if they were asking me that question? And that's probably one of the keys. I'm like, I was just in my own brain going round and round in circles, off down all these tangents and looking at all this detail and not really seeing it for what it was. So maybe this is a good point to segue into what are the patterns that we might recognize in ourselves, or are there types? Do you work with people and you're like, oh, you've got this type of procrastination, or what? I love being able to segment things a little bit. It's like helps me to understand them. So I'll throw that one over to you, that messy question.
Okay. I love it. I accept the challenge. I may need a minute or two. I would say you detailed a very large category or bucket of procrastinators, and that is the category of people who, and we all fit into these different buckets in different ways, but wanting to know the right answer, wanting certainty, that is definitely something that will keep us procrastinating. I think there's another very large bucket of people who have difficulty tolerating the feelings that come with uncertainty. So it might be the same bucket, but it's that frustration. As soon as there's a signal that it's a new territory, it's going to be difficult, it's going to be complicated, it could involve conflict, and it could cause me some personal feelings of frustration. That sometimes is an immediate trigger or light switch kind of thing, where the people turn off their active problem-solving brain and go into an old pattern of retreat, of deciding I need to distance myself quickly. And it doesn't matter if I've done this before. It doesn't matter if I've made this bad decision before. I have such familiar habit of retreating from feelings of frustration that takes over. So that is definitely a bucket. Let's go to entrepreneurs. I would say for entrepreneurs, I think a lot of the procrastination, from what I can observe, is of being visible. So really of being known in small and larger ways. And I would say showing up live, speaking without a script, speaking really passionately about your offer and about your talent and what you can do with your clients. I think we believe in ourselves and that, but then sometimes the translation of it, it's not quite there. There's something missing. And I think that's also old patterning, where we as women are very much, I think, taught directly and indirectly to cut it back a little bit, to kind of lower the voice, be sweeter in some way. let the other person speak, let the other person shine, not boast. In my culture, I'm Asian American. The idea of actually like hosting a podcast is really not something that is like the obvious path for the
Yeah.
Asian American child. So we have to
Mm.
kind of gently coach ourselves through each limiting habit that we have, right? That thought that, oh, I can't tolerate frustration. Actually, we're all really good at tolerating frustration. We have all of this resilience and all of this experience, and we wouldn't be
Mm.
entrepreneurs if we didn't know that,
Mm-hmm.
because entrepreneurship is really one long game of resilience.
Yeah.
And to
So is
know
that the
that,
feeling of like vulnerability, do you think, in the, showing up that causes the procrastination? Because you want to do it, but then I think as women, is particularly what I see and relate to, is that we're brought up to think so much about what other people think and how other people feel, and to always be considerate of others. But then we literally then attach that to ourselves and thinking, well, but what are they going to think about me if I do this? What are they going to think about how I look when I do it? And that can be enough to stop us, can't it? So yeah, do you think that, when you work with people, is that the root cause in driving that pattern, that behavior where they're procrastinating from showing up?
I think our training of kind of dimming ourselves
Mm.
is multi-layered. I think there's
Mm.
sexism involved. I think there's
Mm.
formal schooling involved. I think there is, even in the individualistic culture of America, I think there's such a pressure towards conformity.
Mm-hmm.
So taking the leap to say, listen, I want to stand out as an authority. I want to stand out, even if I don't believe I'm the authority, I want to just stand out.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
That is all kind of reason to suspect that you might be vulnerable to other people's judgment and criticism. We can't control any of that. And of course, as you've alluded in different ways, we've got that judge inside of ourselves, and that can be the most brutal judge
Mm-hmm.
of all. Well,
Yeah.
who are you to be thinking you can play like that? Who are you to be taking pictures like that? Who are you to say that you could lead a tribe of clients through this thing that you just started, that you just had the idea to put out
Yeah.
in the world? It sounds nutty, but it's like we also have these higher visions that really don't have anything to do with societal expectations
Mm-hmm.
or how our parents treated us or how those early school teachers treated us. Though that vision comes, I don't know where it comes from, but you and I know, and you and I believe, I know from seeing you in different coaching calls, that you and I believe in the vision that supersedes all of this stuff.
Mm.
And I think that's part of the trick of avoiding the buckets of procrastination, is saying, I have these things, I accept them,
Mm-hmm.
I give myself grace for working through this and suffering through
Mm.
this stuff, but I also nurture the higher part of myself, the bigger part of myself, the stronger part of myself that is indomitable. Nothing can really take that away from me. I really feel it's like this life willpower. I tell people that there's a willpower that we have over the course of a day, which
Mm.
when we start in the morning, it's at its fullest. And at the end of the night, when we're ready to hit the pillow, sometimes it's below zero. Oftentimes it's at zero. That's willpower. And I feel like there's a life willpower too. And
Mm.
that's a different stuff,
Yeah.
maybe overlapping, but that's, I feel, inexhaustible. That's the stuff that really comes onto the scene when you feel like your daily willpower is at zero, but you've got more to do, that you can find, like maybe they call it a second wind, something
Yeah.
like that. It's like when somebody's on fire, I feel like that's your life energy coming through.
Yes, yeah. Now, that's something I remembered, and I think it's relevant for anyone who's even got a job as well as being an entrepreneur. I definitely experienced this back in my early days in working, and as a manager, I'd recognize it in my staff. And it's that when there's something hard to do, we will find, well, we might not even realize that we're avoiding it, I think is what happens, because you tend to be like, oh, I'll just do that. I'll just do that. And you kind of do all the easy things or the stuff you're comfortable with first, right? And then it's like the analogy of it's like the onion sitting there. You don't want to bite it because it's like, ugh. And I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are around that, because I think that that's probably a common one that a lot of us have probably experienced. I'm not sure what it means, or if it's a type of person that does that or not, or if it's just inbuilt in us to kind of naturally go with what we find most comfortable. But I'd always say to people, right, I can see that you're avoiding doing that. Is it because you don't know how to do it and there's some confusion around it, or that it just feels hard and new? And, so I'd usually start out by, let's put it on the top of your list for first thing in the morning, like bite the onion, get it over and done with, and then you can do all the easy stuff later on. So that usually worked, but I'm guessing that there would be things, and I can see it myself even now, like there's something that I'm like, oh, that's quite a big thing I've got to do, and it's something I haven't done, and it doesn't feel totally comfortable. And 6 months later, I still haven't done it. Why am I doing that? So yeah.
I want to say one thing before I answer, and I hope I don't forget these answers. When Jessica says bite the onion, I want to ask the audience, our listeners, did you have the taste of an onion or the sensation of biting into an onion in your mouth? And I can raise my hand that I did. And I just want to remind everyone who's listening that that is your brain being so ready to help you, being instantaneously cooperating with what it believes you need and what it believes you need it to do. So that makes procrastination feel kind of even more ridiculous sometimes, because our brain is just ready to thrive, ready to help you thrive. And we're the force holding it back sometimes. So if you're doing kind of some things that make you feel ridiculous, know that your brain and your body have got you, that they are not actually resisting. You are just in habits that force the brain and body to be acting in ways that aren't suiting your goal.
Change it to an apple.
Yes,
like
right.
the apple instead.
Correct.
Easy.
We've got peaches. Yes. Okay. So now back to your question about when you've got lots of things and, you're just leaving them hanging kind of a thing, or avoiding and then stockpiling to-do list items. I think my own feeling is that it's not so important to know exactly why, because there can be shifting reasons why, right? Sometimes it can be that the boss is really scary and that's just this idiosyncratic situation, right? Sometimes it could be your skill set, that it just didn't really match the assignment that you've been given and you're terrified, right?
Yeah.
So, and sometimes it could just be you're tired and you're frustrated, and, maybe you were just recovering from illness and you're just not back to speed yet. And you need to let those things on the to-do list hang out a little bit longer. For me, the other thing that I'm thinking of is what I do. I call myself the queen of not knowing how to prioritize. That's one of my self-given nicknames. I will know instinctively what is the most important thing to do. And then what I will do is do item number 2. I will just do everything in my conscious and subconscious power to avoid number 1. And so my answer to dealing with that is I toggle between 1 and 2. I will take 2 things at a time, and I'll get bored of one and then skip over to the other one that I had been avoiding. So it's this constant dance of minor avoidance, but I end up getting different things done now. So I don't like things lingering on my to-do list. Now it's a trigger for a little bit of upset or a little bit of concern in me. It used to be that my to-do list items were just all over my room. There would be Post-its everywhere. There'd be items on my desktop. It would just be endless, right? Notebooks filled with ideas and thoughts and undone things. And now I like to have things pretty much, kind of moving through each day, chipping away at it, accepting the fact that it won't end, that there are
Yeah.
things that come onto it every day, and
Mm-hmm.
knowing that that's as it should be, that my goal is not to be done. My goal is to have it be moving
Mm.
at least a little bit every day, right? It's those days when I feel like I have no energy and I have no movement there that I get a
Mm.
little bit, maybe not concerned these days, but my guard is up a little bit to make sure it's not 3 or 4 days, that maybe it's 2 days at the max, because 2 days lost is a lot, can be a lot
Yeah.
for our productivity and our goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that that's sort of leading into really how you can become that high achiever in your business is sort of maybe setting yourself up to be thinking, what are those priorities, to be knowing that you're never going to get it done. Your to-do list is always moving, but as long as you're working on those top priorities and not spending all of your time on the stuff that's filling the rest of the list, which are, nice to haves instead of need to haves, then that's a good thing. And maybe it's like being aware if you are starting to avoid something that is a top priority and it's like days and days and you haven't started it, what would you do then to get yourself out of the procrastination hole that you're in? There's that one thing you've figured out that you're avoiding it, you're aware of it. So how do you then what should you do to sort of get yourself moving again, to take action? Is there any
Yes.
kind of simple step or?
I have a quick rubric for
Mm.
just reminding yourself of the options that you have for moving out of really like
Mhm.
inactivity or being really stuck. And I call it SMACK, SMACK.
Mhm.
And I came up with that in my minivan of many years ago. And
Yeah.
the first letter is S for simplicity. And that is like, first step, simplify what you're dealing with. Because sometimes
Mm.
you're thinking about too many things, too many software options. You're
Yes.
getting yourself really confused. So just
Mhm.
simplify what the choice is. What is the decision that needs to
Mhm.
get handled so that you can move again? Who is the person you need to call? What is the to-do list item that seems to be blocking you from having some time to make the decision? So simplify the whole affair. And again,
Mm.
reduce the, this gets into the letter A. So I'll just hang on. I'll describe letter M, which is mindfulness. That
Mm.
is, you want to think about the present moment. You don't want to think about, oh, I took 9 months to make this decision. That's the past, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then you don't want to be stuck in the future either. Oh, well, what if I run out of money in the future? And da, 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 because those zones temporally are not where your power resides. Your power
Mm.
resides in, my belief is that if I invest this sum of money now, I'll be able to. And that's a healthy way of moving into the future, of saying, like, what is my best action right
Mm.
now? What do I
Mhm.
have control over now? Our greatest control moment is in the present moment.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So, and oftentimes when we're procrastinating, we're thinking about the future or the past. So, like, root
Mm.
yourself into the
Okay.
present moment. A was what I was trying to get at, and that is anxiety reduction. So you want to reduce all the drama, because
Yes. Okay.
procrastination makes us feel like we're in trouble, like
Mm.
something's going down. We
Yeah.
are about to lose our shirts, or we're about to lose our friends, or, we're about to embarrass ourselves on stage. Just cut that out, right? Just
Yeah.
say, what do I have to say on stage? That's what I have
Mhm.
to be concerned of, not whether my cheeks are red, or what that person in the front row is really thinking. That's not your goal, right? Your goal
Yeah.
is to do your job. So
Yeah.
pick your job, reduce the stories that you're telling about that job, and then do the job. Okay.
Mhm.
C is communication. And that we haven't really spoken about much on this episode,
Okay.
but what we've done throughout this episode is to communicate with each other. And when you learn how to communicate clearly and openly and vulnerably with yourself and with other people, things tend to go really well. And you tend to avoid and get out of really bad spots of procrastination.
Mm.
So change your habits. Instead of hiding out when you feel like you're behind on something, say, by the way, I'm way behind on my schedule with this deliverable. Do you have the space to allow me another week? Things like that, right? Be polite.
Yes.
Use all of your best social skills when you're
Mm,
communicating, but do not skip the communication.
mm.
Disappearing is not so polite. I know in dating, I was just skimming an article about ghosting, like let's not ghost each other because we're
Yes.
nervous or we feel like we need more support. Actually, what we should do is the
Mm.
opposite. We need to embrace the support that might be there for us. We have to find
Yeah.
that support actually. Okay.
Ask the question if you need to ask it, like,
Yes,
because
please,
it might be
please.
the thing that gets it done. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
use your coach, right?
Mm.
Get a coach. It's good. And then K finally is kindness to self, which we've been talking about that, if you have to make a decision about which software to use, definitely make that decision while being kind to yourself about how you're making that decision, right? You
Mm.
cannot make a decision and then beat yourself up for the next 9 months for the situation that happened, that, oops, it was a mistake. You want to just say, okay, let's collect ourselves. Let's
Mhm.
pivot and let's do it again. Right. It makes the whole journey a lot happier. Right. The decisions have to be made.
Yeah.
Let's make them with a happy spirit when we can. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's a really good process, I think, to go through. And it brought to mind something that's not business related at all, but I think we can probably relate it to anything. My husband was struggling with going for a run. He had made a goal or a challenge or a bet. Actually, he'd made a bet with his friends that he would run 1,000 Ks in a year. And then I can't remember what happened, but for some reason he hadn't been running for a few days. And it just seemed like this big thing. Is like, oh, but then I've got to go and do this run. And, he was like really focusing on the future. So it wasn't in the present. He was focusing on the future and on the pain of the run. And I was like, look, just stop thinking about that. Why don't you just go upstairs and put your shoes on? I broke it down, like you said, simplify. I was like, that's so powerful just to simplify it, because when we're often got all that stuff flying around in our heads. And just by simplifying it down into one step, he could put his shoes on. And he's like, yeah, I can do that. So he went and did it without worrying about it or thinking about it. Came downstairs. I was like, okay, where's your headphones? Where's your music? Put those on. I'm like, open the door, step out of it, and you're away. Don't even think about anything else. Just take that first step. And literally, he did it. Of course, when you come back, you feel amazing because it's now done. It's in the past. Yes, it might have been painful while you're doing it, but now it's over. You feel great. And yeah, I was like, wow, just breaking it down. It was such a good lesson for me as well. I was like, when are we making it into such a big thing that we've got to do, and thinking about the whole thing in one go, when actually we just need to think about one step? And I think I'm probably a person that does this all the time to myself. I'm like always thinking about the biggest thing, and I'm like, I need to break it down just like one thing, because it's easy then, isn't it, to kind of take a step forward when you can just achieve that one little thing.
Here's another bonus tip, which you're
Mm,
making me think of. And this is like one that I really never talk about, except to probably my therapy patients who see me all the time.
yeah.
And that is that you got to believe that it's all boring, that actually like this 100K goal that he has, the struggle that he's having with that particular day of getting out the door,
Yeah.
software choices. Like if you think to yourself, okay, I have this decision and it's totally boring, that's a shortcut for saying like, I don't need the anxiety. I don't need all the stories.
Yeah.
It's just a choice. It's like, yes, no, left, right, now or tomorrow,
Yeah.
like, and we make all this stuff up. And I
Mm,
consider that the power of our imagination and
mm,
creativity and the power of our brain to make sure that we're safe. But, for me, if you lose all of the time, your precious time, that's not a particularly safe way of living, I think,
yeah.
because that is your precious life moving away from you. So make these to-do list items more boring and
Yeah.
live your life, right? Do the things that, we talk about productivity and choice and all that.
Yeah.
Live your life, go for the runs, right? Set the big goals that will fill you up with energy that makes you not worried about procrastination anymore, that really
I love
just
that.
make you want to
Yeah.
jump up and put your shoes on. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. I love that, because straight away I thought, it can just take something from feeling big and complicated to feeling like when something's boring, you're going to go, oh, just that one. Like someone's going,
Yeah.
do you want peas or carrots? I don't care, whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's not a big decision. I'll eat both or either.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's such a good and simple thing to remember. Thank you. What a great tip.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Oh, brilliant. So, okay, I think we've covered a lot. I love this SMAC, what do you call it? Your tips, SMACK, how to get out of it, how to recognize procrastination, some of the big patterns that we see people have as well. So if somebody is stuck in the procrastination hole, or if it's, how do you know when it's gone too far? Is there something that you go, this is when you know it's time to get help, or I guess, or what is it that they do?
Well, I would say in clinical practice, we want to evaluate when we're first meeting a potential client, how many different areas of the person's life is affected by a particular symptom. And so that is one way to answer that question is if your procrastination is not just work, but it's actually with paying bills, with meeting health goals, with setting health goals, with preparing for future needs, and you feel that your stress levels are really just chronically high, I think that's one reason why you might want to do an intervention of any kind. It doesn't necessarily have to be hiring a coach or a therapist. It could be just implementing the SMAC solution.
Yeah.
Even one or two of those steps will shift you away from feeling like I have no options. You'll see and feel different energy within you. So there are lots of different options. Thankfully, there's Instagram. I mean, all you have to do is pick up Instagram. I don't want to make light of anxiety or procrastination, but to be real, Instagram has a lot of powerful information to inspire you to take better care of yourself and your decisions. And it's like a world of options in there right at your fingertips. So
yeah, amazing. That is great. So simple. And so if anybody's thinking that they'd love to learn a bit more, you have your own podcast, the Make Time for Success podcast, which you obviously talk about all of these things in a lot more detail. Where can they find you and how can they connect?
Thank you, Jessica, so much for all of our conversation today and for inviting me to describe how people can connect with me. I love the Make Time for Success podcast. Jessica will be on the show soon. I'm so grateful for that. And I have wonderful guests on the show, people from entrepreneurship and public speakers and voice coaches and our shared coach, James Wedmore, was just on. And I just consider it a privilege to be able to interview people about their lives and their journeys through difficulty, through to success, and through transformation. So if you're interested in more stories like that, come on over to the show. And otherwise, I'm happy to get to know you on Instagram. You can direct message me. I'm Procrastination Coach all over the web. And if it's okay, Jessica, I will share a link that people can go to explore different things that I have.
Sure.
Some free, some paid, and the podcast is on there too. It's the link is procrastinationcoach.com/start. So if you're inspired by SMAC or parts of this conversation, just go to procrastinationcoach.com/start and then do more starting. Yeah,
awesome.
Get some more done.
Get started. Yeah, I love that. Stop procrastinating. Just do it. Yeah. I will link that up in the show notes as well. So if you're on your device, you can just click there and grab the link through to Christine's page. So thank you so much, Christine. I really appreciate your time and sharing all of this with us. I've loved the conversation. I'm sure we could talk for hours because there's many more examples and stories. And I'm sure if you've been listening, you've thought of some of your own as well while we've been talking, because no doubt we've all experienced procrastination at some stage. And I think it's when it becomes more of a constant in our lives that it can really be holding us back from achieving what we want to achieve. So such an important topic and thing to be aware of and also to address. So thank you for sharing your steps with us, Christine. That's very, very powerful. And I hope that for you listeners that you can take that away and start implementing some of those today.
Well, thank you, Jessica, for realizing the importance of addressing these topics. I so appreciate your collaboration with me today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. If you aren't currently attracting the type of clients or work that inspires you, marketing is feeling really hard, and you're still miles away from your income goals, then it's a clear sign your strategy is out of alignment, or maybe there are parts missing altogether. So let's change all that. This month, I'm hosting a live free training called Master Your Marketing, starting on the 23rd of May. And if you come and join me for it, you'll discover how to easily attract the quality clients you really want every month, so that you can smash your income goals and do that within school hours, which is about 20 hours a week. And you'll finally be able to have that flexible lifestyle that you really, really want for your family. Now, I know from my years of experience that marketing can seem really complicated and there's so many different pieces, but we're going to simplify this right down, because for a successful strategy, you really just need 3 key elements aligned. And those are having the right clients, selling them profitable services that they really want, and having a marketing and sales flow that takes them from being strangers to customers in a series of really short or simple steps. Now, we can do all of this without undercharging, giving away services for free, without wasting all your time scouring your socials for leads, sending cold DMs, doing that icky cold pitch that nobody likes doing and nobody likes receiving. So why do people even do that? I don't know. And without wasting money on ads or building complicated funnels. This is all about making marketing simple, and I'm sharing it with you over 3 days. So there's a 3-day series starting May 23. I've got it spread out over the week. So we'll have a day's rest in between, a day to recalibrate, maybe catch up on the replay, ask some questions, even have a think about what we've done on the day before. So it's going to be heaps of fun. They're going to be short sessions. You'll join me online, and that's really it. So if you come to jessicaosborne.com/masteryourmarketing, you can pop your name down on the list right now, save your spot, get access to the live sessions, get access to all the replays, and get access to me in our pop-up Facebook group, so you can jump in there and ask questions and have some extra chat and extra time in between the lines. So I highly recommend it. If you've been finding marketing hard, then let's make it simple. Let's get you to where you want to be by the end of 2022. So again, this is May 23, Master Your Marketing. Go to jessicaosborne.com/masteryourmarketing and come and join me live. It's going to be heaps of fun. Totally free, so there's really no reason not to do it, except if you don't have a problem with marketing. If you're already getting all the right clients and everything's rosy, then hey, you probably don't need this training. But if you would like better quality clients more consistently and to have a much easier, more effortless time attracting them, then this is the training that you need to be attending. So I hope to see you there. Let's get into it.